What is going on, Raider Nation? It's your boy Sanjit back at it with another video. Today we are talking about the Las Vegas Raiders on the offensive side, and we're going to talk about why this team struggled in this game against the Commanders. In my opinion, this offense lost us this game. You know, if you guys are box stat watchers, you guys might say, hey, the offense put up, X amount of points. Geno Smith had 3 touchdowns and almost 300 yards. It's definitely not on the offense. But if you watch the game, you guys know exactly what I mean when I say this. This offense does not sustain drives. They went 3 and out multiple times. They did not score points when it mattered, right? The game was basically over, and the Commanders basically let up, and that's kind of when the Raiders started racking up some of those stats. But if you guys watch this game, the offense was terrible. And I want to show you guys some of the plays as to the Raiders just kind of struggling. I don't want to do the video that I typically do, I did over the last couple of weeks, because it doesn't make sense in this situation. The defense is not an issue. Special teams obviously helped lose this game, but the offense is really the biggest factor over the first 3 weeks that have kind of struggled. Now let's break down from the first play of the game kind of what happened. And we're not going to look at every play like in order, but we will look at a lot of plays. This play right here, if this is a better pass from Geno Smith, it is potentially a touchdown. This is going to be cover 2 zone defense, so the safety here technically has to play over the top. And for whatever reason, he ends up coming downhill. I think he ends up falling for the play action. So with that, keep an eye here on the safety. He's going to end up coming downhill. And right here, this should be a touchdown. If Geno Smith puts the ball in front of Jakobi Meyers, it's a touchdown. But look at the angle Jakobi has to make to essentially catch this pass. He almost has to stop and come back towards the football. If that's a better pass, this could potentially have been a touchdown. And this is important to understand because on the next 3 plays, the Raiders end up picking up 1 yard and then they kick the field goal. 45 yards on the first play of the game, only to settle for a field goal because you couldn't do anything on the next 3. And I want to talk about some of these plays here because you just have to block these plays better. It's one of those things where if one guy makes his block, and on this one here, it's going to end up being the tight end, Michael Mayer. Now, Mayer here does have a difficult block. This is Dorrance Armstrong. If you guys watched my video on Friday, I talked about Armstrong. He is a phenomenal defensive lineman. He's versatile. He'll play edge. He'll play on the inside. This guy wreaked havoc on the Las Vegas Raiders in yesterday's game. Now, you'll notice right before the snap, Armstrong's going to end up coming to the inside, which tells me he's going to essentially have the inside gap. And this is a very, very difficult block to make. Now, it's not an impossible block either. If this is a top 5 run blocking type, if this is Lee Smith, for example, Lee Smith is making this block. All the Raiders have to do on this play is get Michael Mayer to the inside of Armstrong. And again, I know it's a hard thing to do, but if Michael Mayer is able to reach in front of Dorrance Armstrong and steal him off, the cutback lane would have hit, in my opinion, on this zone run. But again, you'll see that Armstrong's going to end up kind of going through Michael Mayer, ends up sealing off the backside, and he just kind of blows it up. Now, I also don't love the blocking here. I mean, this doesn't make sense to me. Why are you putting Jack Bech in between Michael Mayer and the tackle where he's essentially lined up, and then not have him, who kind of already has this angle, why not have him take on number 92? And he doesn't have to do anything crazy. He just has to jump in front of number 92. He just has to cut him, right? Take those legs out, essentially. At the same time, that makes this block for Michael Mayer a little bit easier as well. I don't know. I just feel like these guys are kind of lined up in a specific spot, and it just makes it a little bit harder. And Bech does do a good job with this block, right? So it's not like he doesn't make the block, but he has a much easier block and a much easier angle than what Michael Mayer has. Mayer has a guy literally in the inside gap. That's a very difficult block to make. So again, to me, just a questionable run call by the offensive coordinator. And I'm not sure if that's on the run game coordinator or if that's more so on the offensive coordinator, right? I'm not really 100% sure. I would think it's on the run game coordinator a little bit more. So that play was the 1st and 10. This is 2nd and 9. And we're going to end up picking up no yards. Now, this is a great example of a coach just not knowing his players. To me, this makes 0 sense. And this is designed well, minus the concept of we're going to have Kolton Miller trap Daron Payne. That makes 0 sense to me. Why would Kolton Miller try trapping one of the best defense tackles in the NFL? That's never going to work. Kolton Miller, for as good of a pass blocker he is, and even as good of a run blocker as he is, right? He's a great, if you put him in a situation where he has to reach on the backside of a guy, where Kolton Miller has to get out in space and pick off like a safety or a linebacker. But what Kolton Miller is not, he is not a physical offensive tackle in the general senses where we look at a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson. Now, let's say JPJ is lined up right here, and you let number 99 go upfield, and JPJ comes and hits number 99. I'm confident JPJ would put 99 into the dirt. But that's not the type of player Kolton Miller is. So this makes zero sense to me. Again, third play of the game, this is 2nd and 9, we pick up no yards. Now you can make the argument Kolton Miller should have made the block, and I'm not going to disagree with that. It's a hard block to make. It's a great defensive tackle against a guy that's a finesse type of offensive tackle. This is like telling Lane Johnson to go trap a defensive tackle. That just doesn't make sense. Now the Raiders end up in a 3rd and 9 situation, again, after they had picked up 45 yards to Jakobi Meyers. And you're going to see Geno Smith's pressured. I don't hate this idea of giving Brock Bowers these 50-50 chances. I actually think this is a nicely designed concept. But you'll see the Commanders are going to bring 5 guys, and the Raiders, and the quarterback is still touched as he throws this, that the O-line breaking down is really causing an issue for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, last week, if you guys remember, we talked about this sack that Khalil Mack had. The sack happened. Some people blamed Ashton Jeanty. I disagreed with that. I think the offensive line, when you run a defensive line game on the interior, you have to be able to pick it up. Right? It's basic stuff. And again, I know technically Ashton Jeanty should have helped, but you guys will see as we continue through this video, there's going to be a lot of times where the Commanders are going to simulate pressure. They only bring 4 guys, but it's 4 guys off, like, for example, the right edge, and the Raiders just don't pick it up properly. Now, on this one here, it is a hard thing to do. Kappa has to pass off Payne to Meredith. Meredith has to pass off number 92 Armstrong to the left guard. Left guard has to take 92, center has to take 94, and then Kappa has to get back around and take, I believe that's Bobby Wagner. That's a hard thing to do right there. But it's not impossible. The great offensive lines out there do it. You do this against the Cowboys, they're going to pick it up. You do this against the Eagles, they're going to pick it up. The Raiders are not going to pick it up. And that is part of the frustrating part for me. Because I watch so many offensive lines for the Football Scout YouTube channel, which is my 2nd YouTube channel that I have, if you guys don't know. I watch the Eagles, I watch the Cowboys. I watched the Bills recently, and they have a phenomenal offensive line as well. The Cardinals are pretty solid. The Niners don't even have good players, and they still make it work. But the Raiders, for some reason, are going in with these guys that just aren't good football players. So that last drive obviously ended up in a field goal, right? It was basically 4 plays, and then you kick the field goal. The 45-yard play essentially got us in position. Here's now going to be the struggles with the Raiders, right? You guys are going to see a lot of pressure from this point forward. You're going to see some designs that I think are pretty solid by Chip Kelly, but the pressure just doesn't allow it to open up. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think the Raiders' struggles are 100% on the offensive line. I don't even think it's on the offensive line coach. Guys just don't know what the hell they're doing. Now, you could blame the coach for certain elements like, Kolton Miller trapping a guy. Maybe a receiver and tight end should have blocked it a little bit differently. You can put that stuff on the coaching staff, but you'll also see plays where there's like potential touchdowns. So this one here is 1st and 10, and DJ Glaze is going to get beat by Dorrance Armstrong. Armstrong's going to just end up beating DJ Glaze. Now, you guys know how I felt about DJ Glaze last year. I'm going to go ahead and just give you guys a quick little update. I don't think he's a franchise guy. Now, can he develop into a serviceable starting offensive tackle? There's definitely a chance he can, but he's nowhere near that this season. DJ Glaze is one of the big reasons why the Raiders are also struggling. Now, keep in mind, offensive tackle is a lot harder than guard. But when you put DJ Glaze in one-on-one situations, when you ISO him out the way he's ISO'd out here, right? When you do this right here, he's not going to win these blocks, and this is a part of the issue for the Raiders right now. And Dorrance Armstrong's not, he's not freaking Myles Garrett, right? But these are the things that are kind of causing the Raiders to struggle. And here's the thing with this play here. The Raiders literally have 7 guys blocking, and they still can't pick this up. They're going to keep in both tight ends and these 5 offensive linemen, and they still cannot keep the quarterback clean. What type of offensive line keeps 7 guys in? All right, 5 offensive linemen, 2 tight ends. They can't keep these guys blocked, essentially. Jakobi Meyers is going to get open, and keep an eye here on Jakobi Meyers. He's going to be wide-ass open, and if Geno has the time, that right there is a 25-yard gain. But you don't have the time, you go down on a sack. So these are the issues I have with the Raiders on the offensive side. Guys are open downfield. There are examples where the Raiders could have potential touchdowns. And I'll show that to you guys here in a second. So this sack obviously lost us 3 yards. 2nd and 13 now. This is the very next run play. Ashton Jeanty is going to not end up picking up. He picks up about a yard. So here's the thing with this play. This play works if Alex Kappa gets to his block. Now, Kappa does do something in this play that some people say is a really good thing for him to do, which is him and Meredith, and it's really Kappa that does this. They're going to put this nose tackle into the ground here. Bam. Beautiful job right there. But if you guys watch the tape, if he just gets to Bobby Wagner, right, you double team, get to Bobby Wagner. If you make this block right here, this play picks up 10 yards. But you miss the block, and Ashton Jeanty ends up getting blown up into the backfield. So again, good job with the double team, but you don't need to get all the way in this guy to put him down. Touch him, make sure he doesn't make the play. But again, it's little things like this where this offensive lineman has to make his block. I don't care about putting a guy down. That stuff doesn't really matter. What really matters is getting to your block. If you guys look at everybody else, they do a fairly good job. DJ Glacis Armstrong, he's going to influence this guy downwards. And then you'll see the influence right there. That's a good job there. Mayer does a good job on his out block. Jacoby Myers comes. He's going to hit number 3 on the inside. And again, if Kappa just gets to Bobby Wagner, a crease opens up and Ashton Jeanty picks up 10 yards. Or, as soon as number 23 makes the tackle, if he makes the tackle, you got to make those blocks right there for Alex Kappa. Now, 3rd and 12 is not ideal for the Las Vegas Raiders. You do not want to be in a 3rd and 12. This is a touchdown right here if the quarterback has more time. If the quarterback could just, stand cleanly in the pocket and keep his eyes downfield, it's a touchdown. Keep an eye here on Trey Tucker. Watch Trey Tucker. He's going to end up just running right by everybody. Now, you're going to get a simulated pressure on this one. So keep an eye on number 4 as well as I believe that's the slot corner. Might be an edge player. Those 2 guys drop off of it. So you get 2 guys that are going to drop off of it. And you'll see the guy, number 92, that's playing over the center. He's going to jump all the way to the left to contain the quarterback. And then you're essentially going to bring these 4 guys. It's a 4-man pass rush. We've struggled to pick this up against the Patriots. We've struggled to pick this up against the Chargers. Every team is going to run these type of things to us. And you're going to see that over the course of this game. And the offensive linemen don't do a terrible job picking it up, right? But the thing is Geno Smith doesn't trust that his offensive line is going to pick this up. He has no trust in these guys. You're going to see here number 99, the long 3 technique. He's going to jump inside. As soon as Geno Smith sees this guy getting past Parham, and it's not like Parham loses. Parham does a good job letting 99 go to pick up 54. I agree with how Parham kind of handles this. He's going to end up letting him go. He's going to take on 54 here. 99 is going to get picked up, but Geno just doesn't trust this. All right, to Geno, this is pressure. And Geno does a good job getting off of it. He's going to get to his check down before he's able to read downfield. He's going to check it down 3rd and 12. 6-yard gain, you punt the football. These are the moments that are losing the Raiders the games. Alrighty, guys, the very next drive that the Raiders get the football, just to summarize, the first drive really was a 4 and out. Obviously, we picked the 45 yards on the first play, but then we went 3 and out from that point. The second drive, 3 and out. Third drive that the Raiders have the football, it's going to be a 3 and out again. Now, this is the second play of that third drive. Keep an eye here on the quarterbacks and end up getting pressured. Now, this play actually did go viral. I'm going to break it down on exactly what happens. But just before we get into the actual protection of this, to me, this is a big play potentially as well. All right. If the offense picks this up properly, there's not enough guys, in my opinion, for the Commanders to pick all this up. So let's just make the assumption the quarterback is not instantly pressured and he's kept clean. You have Jacoby Myers running through the middle. You have Dante Thornton running down the sideline. One guy cannot cover both of these guys. So to me, if Geno is kept clean, he's picking up some big yards on this play. But he is going to instantly be pressured. He kind of just tries throwing it to Michael Mayer. Ends up not working. Let's talk about this play because some people talked about this play and said, what the hell is Dylan Parham doing? Why would you not block this play? And this is a nicely designed simulated pressure. You're essentially going to bring 4 guys and you're going to get home with 4 guys. And again, I talked about this. If you're unable to pick it up against the Patriots, you're unable to pick it up against the Chargers, every week they're going to keep doing this to us now. Here's a play where it just gets ruined. It's literally 4 guys coming. And they're going to generate pressure on this play. And again, it's because the Raiders are just too slow to process this. Now, people are saying Dylan Parham should have, stood up and picked up 54. But that's not what the pass protection is calling. Colt Miller has the edge. Parham has the long 3 technique. The center has the nose tackle. Guard has the other defensive tackle here. DJ Glaze has number 4. So this play is not calling for Dylan Parham to just magically take 54. That's not the protection on this play. Now here's another part of this play. If 54 blitzes, which is exactly what he's going to do, is there a hot read on this play? Because the Raiders right now are essentially going to have 4 guys running routes, The running back does not chip. He ends up just releasing right away as well. To me, this is kind of on the design of this, right? Maybe it's on the quarterback. I don't know. Maybe he reads this wrong. Maybe he's supposed to read this and get this to the running back. Not 100% sure, but you got a 3rd and 10 on the very next play. You're going to bring 4 guys. Geno Smith's going to throw this. Ends up just kind of being tipped around and almost intercepted. 3rd and 10 is not something you want to be in if you're an offense, right? You're going to lose football games if you're in a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 9. If that's what you're playing offense out of, you're not going to have success. You're going to lose a lot of football games essentially, right? You can see it's an incomplete pass. Let's go ahead and get into the next snap. Alrighty guys, so obviously we ended up settling for a field goal on the first drive. The second drive ended in a 3 and out. And the third drive also ended up in a 3 and out. And then we are now in the 4th drive. And this drive is actually pretty good. The Raiders end up driving downfield and scoring a touchdown. And they end up tying the game at 10-10. There's still pressure on Geno. He ends up doing a great job creating on some of these plays. Now the offensive line does not do a great job. They are going to end up generating a little bit of pressure. It's going to be specifically Dylan Parham's man that's going to generate the pressure. Now, I spoke about this in yesterday's live, and I'll go ahead and just use this video as the example. A lot of passing plays where the Raiders end up having 4 down defensive linemen end up in this same situation. Here's what I mean by this. The Raiders are going to double team with Kappa as well as Meredith on one guy. Glaze is going to have a double team. He'll sometimes get chip help, or maybe you'll put a tight end on his side to potentially help him. But Colt Miller then is going to go into a one-on-one, and Dylan Parham's going to be in a one-on-one. The Raiders are going to oftentimes put Dylan Parham in these one-on-one situations because among the 3 interior offensive linemen, he is our best interior offensive lineman. I know some guys will disagree with that because he gives up pressure like on this one. But understand, if Alex Kappa is in a one-on-one or if Jordan Meredith is in a one-on-one, they're going to give up pressure as well. The Raiders are scheming it up this way where they want Dylan Parham in a one-on-one, and they're going to have Alex Kappa as well as Jordan Meredith double, because not only can these guys double team one guy, but then Kappa can also get off and potentially help DJ Glaze, right, if Glaze needs to help. So a lot of these passing plays end up with Dylan Parham in a one-on-one. So although he is giving up pressure, do understand the idea behind that. Now, Geno obviously does a great job on that play. That was obviously 2nd and 7. This is 3rd and 1. And here's an example of exactly what I just said, right? So phenomenal job by Geno, first and foremost. The guy makes so many plays with his legs. He's able to create even as he's pressured. But keep an eye here on the right guard. The right guard's going to have a one-on-one. And the reason why is because when you put all these guys up on the line of scrimmage, as an offensive line, you have to figure out how you're going to block this. So Kappa's going to actually choose 54 as the mic. So if you guys notice Geno Smith here, he's actually going to tell Ashton Jeanty to get up into this A gap. So what he's telling Ashton is you have number 4 because the guard's going to be in a one-on-one with this defensive tackle. The offensive tackle has number 92, and the slide's going to be to the right. Meredith's going to end up taking 54. And you get the 2 guys out here taking these 2 guys. Keep an eye on Kappa. Kappa's going to be ISO'd out in a one-on-one. And I do understand this is Daron Payne, so he is one of the better D tackles. But understand that teams are doing this stuff right here. Because the Raiders on the offensive side have this mindset that, hey, we're going to double team with the center and right guard, right, Kappa and Meredith. And what teams are doing to counter that is they're going to say, hey, well, if you guys are in a 3rd down situation or a passing obvious situation, we're going to come out in this double A-mug look. And what that's going to do is that's going to make the offensive slide one way, and that's going to give us the one-on-one. Now, Daron Payne's not lined up over Alex Kappa for no reason, right? Because he could have easily went and lined up over Dylan Parham and had the one-on-one against Parham. Now, Payne will probably still beat Parham, but this is what the other teams think of Alex Kappa. They think he's the worst offensive lineman on the Raiders, and they're going to go right at him. And on this one here, Payne ends up pressuring Geno Smith, and Geno does a great job creating. This is a sack on 3rd and 1. Instead, we pick up 18 yards. So to me, that's some of what you get out of a guy like Geno. Now, we're going to end up picking up 16 yards on this one. Just a phenomenal job. Again, if you guys watched my video on Ashton Jeanty, I believe it was posted on Wednesday, I said Ashton Jeanty has had the most success on one type of run concept. That is split zone. That's exactly what's going to be run here. And not split zone. I said specifically on inside zone concepts. But split zone is an inside zone concept. And the reason why is because this guy can just make one read, hit the gap, and essentially pick up the yards that he needs. Like, Ashton Jeanty's very good at being able to find the one gap he needs to hit. And just look at how nicely this play ends up hitting. And look at the drive here, man, by Colt Miller. I mean, this guy's a phenomenal run blocker. Look at this. He's going to end up making contact with the guy that's literally slanting towards him. And then look at the movement he's going to generate as he makes contact with this guy. Look at him get underneath number 99. Look at that. Look at that movement. This play works partly because of Colt Miller. Of course, it's a zone run, split zone specifically. I think Ashton Jeanty has the most success on these type of runs. A couple plays later, you're going to have a 2nd and 9. The center's going to get called for being downfield on this play. It's going to be a quick pass to Brock Bowers out in the flats. Bowers breaks a couple tackles, ends up picking up like 7-8 yards. Pretty nice play, but it does get called back because of that. You're now in a 2nd and 14, and Trey Tucker is going to do a really nice job on this route. Wide ass open, dagger, quarterback puts it exactly where it needs to go. I mean, it does not get better than this pass right here. And here's the thing with this play. You're going to get a clean pocket on this one. This just works out perfectly for the Raiders because the Commanders do not blitz. And not only do they not blitz, you can see that the offensive line just does a great job picking it all up. So let's slow this play down so you guys can see the offensive lineman. Play action. They pick it up perfectly as you kind of want. You get the double team over here towards the right side of our offensive line. This is also partly due to just the way the guys are lined up, right? So this wasn't necessarily, we're going to put Dylan Parham in a one-on-one. It was a five-man front. So center gets the nose, right guard has 92, right tackle has the edge, left guard, left tackle have their one-on-ones. So this was not an ISO'd out play necessarily, but again, just a really good job, right? Because you end up getting Colt Miller shutting his guy down, Parham shuts his guy down, right guard and center end up taking pain, and then right tackle does a nice job as well out there. Phenomenal job. And the design, right? Like, this is a really good design up top here. Jacoby Myers is going to go first. He's going to clear it out. And then you're going to get Trey Tucker right underneath that. This is a nicely designed play. And, you know, the thing is if you keep the quarterback clean, this is what we should expect from this offense. And the reason why we're struggling is because we're not keeping the offense clean right now. We're not keeping Geno Smith clean on a lot of these plays. But when he is kept clean, when the defense only brings 4 and they pick it up properly, when that happens, we will have success. So, again, the offensive line is, to me right now, the biggest issue by far. And if you get that cleaned up, the Raiders are going to be able to have success. You're going to get an 11-yard run on 1st and 10. Shout out to Geno Smith for taking on the huge hit here. I should also just state this, you know, again, it's one guy here, right? You get the backup tight end, Thomas, 24 jumps the gap. That one guy just blows up the entire play. But talk about a guy who does a really, really nice job being able to make some cutback options and potentially pick up 11 yards. This play right here should be a loss of like a yard or 2, right? Beautiful job by Jeanty. And, you know, Geno Smith here gets blown up by Daron Payne. But shout out to Geno, man. That block is definitely a part of this play being able to pick up the 11 yards. 2nd and 7, and Geno Smith is going to find Trey Tucker for a touchdown. Again, this is the 4th drive that the Raiders had the football. This is a really, really nice job by the entire offensive line, right? They're going to do a really good job just kind of keeping the quarterback clean on this one. Kappa kind of ends up in a one-on-one against Payne, and he does a pretty nice job. You know, Meredith does put the right arm out there, like that drag arm, but he doesn't really help Payne on this one at all. And Kappa does a great job on this rep. So shout out to Kappa for this one. The O-line, generally speaking, keeps the quarterback clean, and you're going to pick up 10 yards and score the touchdown on this one. All right, guys, so after that last touchdown, the Raiders get into another drive in which they have a couple of nice plays. 4-yard run, 5-yard run. They convert on a 4th and 1 on a Geno Smith quarterback sneak, and they're now in a 2nd and 10 situation. And this play is going to essentially end this drive right here for the Raiders because it's going to be a 7-yard loss. You're going to see Bobby Wagner ends up beating Dylan Labe, and you're going to see the quarterback ends up going down. Now, the 7 yards ends this drive because on 3rd and 17, on the very next play, they're going to just run the football, pick up 2 yards, punt the football away. But here's the issue I have with this play. So the offensive line is going to tag number 4 as the Mike, which means they're going to slide towards number 4. Meredith essentially has number 4. Dylan Parham's going to end up having number 99, the long 3 technique. Colt Miller's going to end up having number 96. Kappa is technically in a one-on-one with Daron Payne, and then DJ Glaze has his guy. And then what that means is number 54 is going to come on a blitz. He's going to have a one-on-one opportunity with the running back. Now, yes, the running back has to win this block, but this is smart by the defensive coordinator. You are essentially designing plays where you know they're going to slide towards number 4 because number 4 is showing the blitz. Right, number 4 is coming up there. As an offensive line, I mean, this is predictable, right? You just know that, hey, they're going to tag number 4, but number 4 drops off. And what ends up happening is the other linebacker ends up coming. And now you have your linebacker who's a 10-year veteran against a second-year running back that even Dan, hasn't played a whole lot of snaps. This is a great design by Dan Quinn. And this play ends the drive by the Raiders. Now, technically I understand from a responsibility aspect, this is not on Alex Kappa. This is not on Jordan Meredith. But these guys are just so slow at processing, and they just don't do anything beyond what their job is, right? And on a general sense, that's not a bad thing. But you guys know this to be a fact. If number 4 is showing as soon as he is, then I'm dropping out of here. The offensive linemen need to pick up the blitz. They need to help that running back. We don't need to be in a situation where we're not helping the running backs, because we saw this last week. Khalil Mack gets a sack because the running back is in a one-on-one with the safety and the linebacker. Do understand, defensive coordinators in the NFL are going to bring those same type of concepts. They're going to put you in these same type of situations. And right now, the Raiders just aren't doing enough, in my opinion, on the offensive line. Now, this is 100% on Dylan Labe. Technically, it's his responsibility. I just want our offensive linemen to be smarter and process quicker, right? And here's an example of this as well. Keep an eye on Kappa. If Kappa only has to take Daron Payne here, right? Because Payne goes into Meredith. Meredith has him. Kappa, if his only job was to take Payne, he wouldn't even look, right? He's turning towards Bobby Wagner. He would not look if his only responsibility was to take number 94. Both of our guards are essentially going to be blocking no one, right? And again, I understand, guys are dropping off coverage, they're simulating pressure, they're bringing an extra guy off of the other side. But as an offensive lineman, you got to be smarter. Kappa, you're looking over there, get over there. Dylan Parham is unblocked, right? He doesn't have a guy he's blocking. He can help Payne as well. It's just one of those things where this offensive line just isn't doing enough. The guys are just slow to process. It's just not good enough, right? That's what the Raiders' offensive line is right now. And even putting Jackson Powers-Johnson at guard only does so much for this offensive line. I truly think we have to put this guy back at the center position, because the center can change a game. Because Jackson Powers-Johnson can make a big block on any given run play, or he can help on any of these passing plays. I just think the Raiders have to really consider putting JPJ back at center. And I would even roll forward with Kappa and Parham as the 2 offensive linemen. I think Meredith at this point is probably the weak point. Now, Meredith might be a better guard than Kappa, so that's possible too. But that last sack essentially ended that last drive. And then on the next drive, once again, a sack's going to end this drive. This time, it's going to be Von Miller that's going to beat DJ Glaze. But I want to talk about the play concept, because talking about the play concept also makes all of us aware that it's not a bad offense. The design is not the issue within this. If you guys keep an eye here on, I believe it's Jakobi Meyers, to me, this is a potential first down. 3rd and 6. And I know it's going to end up being tight coverage here. You'll see the safety is going to end up driving down on Jakobi Meyers. But if you're able to give Jakobi Meyers this opportunity, and the passing lane is not open right away, right? But if you give him the opportunity, there is a chance you can pick this first down up. And again, I think it's one of those things where if you don't have the time in the backfield, it really doesn't even matter. Now, here's another thing that the Commanders are going to do on 3rd and 6. They're going to ISO out another weak point for the Raiders. That's going to be DJ Glaze. They're going to ISO him out with Von Miller, one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. This is just smart by Dan Quinn. And again, notice the linebackers lined up on the line of scrimmage. You're ISOing number 24 and DJ Glaze here. It's just how the pass protection rules end up working. And it's one of those things where for the Raiders, if you want to have success, you have to have better offensive linemen. And I don't know if you can fix the DJ Glaze issue at this point. DJ Glaze is your starting tackle. That's who you went into this season with. Would the Raiders have been better with Armin Membau at right tackle as opposed to, Ashton Jeanty as our running back? Would we be a better team having a better right tackle? I think we would. I really do think we would be. Now, I'm not saying it was a bad pick taking Ashton Jeanty, because you can still get an offensive tackle in next year's class, or you could try signing a guy or trading for a guy. But DJ Glaze is not a good football player, in my opinion. There's just too many plays like this on tape. So keep in mind that last play ends with that Von Miller sack. On this next play, it's a 1st and 10. It's actually a pretty nice pocket by the quarterback. Now, keep in mind, this is the second drive we've had the football in the second half. Pocket doesn't, it's pretty nice pocket. Would have loved for Geno Smith to throw this pass deep, but he ends up not throwing it deep. I think it's one of those things where he doesn't expect clean pockets. I think it's very clear. Geno Smith's panicking back there. I would have loved for him to throw this to Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker may have had a step if you put it far out there enough where he's able to run underneath it. Maybe it's a completed catch. Kind of hopeful thinking on this one. But the pocket is nicely, it's kept clean, right? And you guys just got to give a credit to the guys that end up keeping it clean, because I know Dylan Parham gets a lot of hate. But once again, you're going to get a double team on number 97 with the center and guard. All right, so here comes the double team by those two guys. They're going to get the double team here. Kappa will also help DJ Glaze if he needs it. So the double team with the drag hand stops 97. If Glaze needs help, he'll help out there. And then on the other side of this, Dylan Parham and Colton Miller, they're going to have a defensive line game. Parham does a phenomenal job on this one. Not only does he protect Colton Miller, right, he makes sure that this guy does not have a free shot at Colton Miller on the inside shoulder. He's going to pass it off. He's going to get over here to the edge player. That is a really, really good job right there by those two guys. And again, I have to point out Dylan Parham because people are saying he's our worst offensive lineman. But I'm telling you guys, those people don't watch tape. Dylan Parham is not our worst offensive lineman. I still think the scheme that this O-line's running is not favorable to Dylan Parham, but he has to do it because we couldn't run the same thing with the other side. All right, you guys, check this next play out. You're going to see the center is going to end up indicating they're going to slide towards the right of the screen here. There it is. I think he's tagging 54 as the guy that might come. For some reason, they slide away from Daron Payne, which doesn't make sense. You're going to get Payne and Kappa in a one-on-one, and Payne's going to end up just beating him and generating pressure. Geno does do a good job getting out of there. This is 3rd and 12, and he just checks it down, right? Now, no one really ends up getting open downfield either. It is 3rd and 12, and they're obviously playing with all their guys down in coverage, right? They only end up bringing 4 guys on this one, and they end up getting home with just 4 guys, right? Or they end up generating pressure with 4 guys. 3rd and 12, if you're bringing 4 guys, it's going to be very hard for the offense to pick it up. Now, the score was 10-20, but the Raiders obviously had a couple of 3-and-outs, right? That was the second 3-and-out that they had in the second half. And on the punt, the Commanders actually ran it back for a touchdown. So 10-26 now at this point. Geno Smith's going to end up going down for a sack on this one as well. It's not great. And it's one of those things where we have guys running wide open. I mean, look here at Trey Tucker. He's going to end up beating the press coverage. That's a potential touchdown right there, right? If the quarterback is not pressured the way he is, if you put this pass in front of Trey Tucker, to me, he's potentially making a play on the football, but Geno Smith's already pressured. He's already trying to run away for his life. This is not sustainable football right here, right? You cannot have these type of plays, and you guys can just kind of see what ends up happening. Kappa's going to be the guy that ends up getting pushed back. He's going to end up getting pushed back by number 97. And, I should also say this. I'm not saying that, Dylan Parham is just a great football player out there, because that's not true. I am pointing out that, Alex Kappa ends up being the guy that gets beat here. You'll see he kind of gets driven back into Geno. Geno runs away from that because of Kappa. He tries running this way. And it is Colton's guy that gets the sack. But Colton's guy is not the guy that wins this play. This is called a low-quality sack. Some of you guys asked me, what's the difference between a high-quality sack and a low-quality sack? This is what we call a low-quality sack. It's a play in which you don't do anything, right? You get shut down by your guy you're essentially going up against. You're shut down. You're not doing anything, but then you end up getting the sack because someone else generates pressure. In this instance, it's number 97. A high-quality sack would be like number 90 just tossing Colton Miller out of there and then getting to the quarterback. That's not this, right? But keep in mind, this is 1st and 10. 2 plays later, the Raiders are in 3rd and 9. And once again, Geno Smith is going to bail us out a little bit. He's going to bail us out. He's going to get out of there. He's going to hit Jack Bech for 10 yards. Now, you guys tell me, is Geno Smith panicking back there? Or is there real pressure on this play here? Is there real pressure here? I think there's real pressure. I think DJ Glaze once again gets his ass kicked. Now, notice the front. It's a double A-mug look. Von Miller's going to be out here going up against DJ Glaze. Again, you're ISOing out DJ Glaze, right? To me, the Commanders clearly had a plan, which is we're going to attack DJ Glaze. We're going to attack Alex Kappa as much as we can. We're going to give these guys one-on-one opportunities on 3rd and 9. And that's exactly what happened on this one, right? You get the one-on-one opportunity. Obviously, the quarterback bails us out and picks up 10 yards. Alrighty, guys, so 2nd and 13. This was, again, right after that Geno Smith pass to Bech. 2 plays later, 2nd and 13. Once again, man, Bobby Wagner's going to end up blitzing. And then, you know, earlier I said the play in which Dylan Parham did not block Wagner. That was the viral play or whatever. That may actually not have been the viral play. It may have been this one. Very similar situation once again, right? Let's talk about this play because if you understand pass protection, if you understand kind of what's happening out there, Bobby Wagner is not going to be blocked by anyone. He is the hot read. He's the alert, whatever you want to call it. It's a 5-man front here, right? Every single offensive lineman has a guy they have to block. Dylan Parham has a long 3 technique. So as much as Dylan Parham wants to block Wagner, as much as he wants to make contact with 54, that's not his guy. Right? His guy is number 99. Now, yes, you have to process this, and you have to realize number 24 is dropping off, but that's a hard thing to also do as quick as this play happens. You know, it's different if Wagner's lined up where like 39 is and then he blitzes slowly. That's different. Wagner ends up, you know, he's already taking that head start. He's already up there on the line of scrimmage, right? This happens too fast. Now, there's nothing the Raiders could have done on this one. Wagner's untagged, 5-man front. The offensive linemen have everybody that they have to essentially block. And Geno Smith ends up going down. Now, this is on Geno. He has to throw the ball, right? There's going to be a hot read within this play. He has to get the ball to someone. Now, I'm not sure who that is. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Ashton Jeanty, but he also realizes real quick, right? He sees this. Now, maybe this is on the coach a little bit. Maybe there should be a hot read where you can get the ball out faster. But again, this is 2nd and 13, and you're designing a long developing concept. So I don't know what the Raiders could do better on these plays. You know, you have to figure out a way where the offensive linemen pick this up. But it's a hard thing to do. You know, maybe you full slide this to the right, and I think that could potentially make sense. So how this would look is you go a full slide to the right, and essentially you'd pick up the blitz, and then DJ Glaze would technically have number 92. And then that means the backside guy here would essentially come free. But the benefit of this is that maybe the quarterback has a little bit more time to be able to get the ball out. Now, in this instance, because all of our wide receivers are on the right side, the slide would actually be away, right? The slide would actually be DJ Glaze out to this guy, and then here, and then here, right? And that could make sense, right? But then 24 is essentially going to be free. But here's the benefit of this play. 24 is going to drop off into coverage anyways, right? Keep an eye on 24. He drops off. So technically, if you just do a full slide one way, you pick this play up. But again, that means the offensive line coach has to make that change and talk about it with the coordinator. It's just one of those things where the Raiders have to figure out what they're going to do, what type of plan they'll have. You just got to think about it. 3rd and 24, you're going to just run the football. It's a 9-yard gain. Again, this drive was right after that big punt return touchdown, 10-26. You need the offense to answer. They obviously don't. The Commanders go right downfield, score another touchdown, 10-33. Game's over at this point. I don't even want to watch the rest of the plays. It really doesn't matter. But again, I'll just show you some of them. Here's an 18-yard run by Ashton Jeanty. This is a nicely blocked play. Understand the Commanders know they've won this game, right? So some of these plays is because of the fact that, they're already thinking about their plans essentially, right? But it's still a nice job. Kappa does a nice job reaching on 54, right? He processes it, picks it up. That's a nice block right there by Kappa. You also see some movement getting generated. The center does an okay job, right? For a center, he's not going to generate movement on a nose. But Parham and Colton do a good job with their movement, right? That's the type of movement we need right there. That's how those lanes are going to open up. And then Kappa or the backside guys just have to reach on one guy and then, essentially pick up 18 yards. It's a pretty nice job. Here's another nicely designed concept by the Raiders. Chip Kelly does a great job with the design. Pressure in Geno Smith's face. It is a long developing play, pressure in the face, and then you're going to end up hitting downfield. This one picks up 16 yards to Brock Bowers. A pretty nice job. It's a nicely designed concept. If the Raiders can just keep their quarterback clean, give him a clean pocket, this is what we could expect. But he needs like 3 seconds to be able to do these type of plays. And I don't think giving a quarterback 3 seconds is something where it's like, it's not like enough time or whatever, right? Like 3 seconds is like the bare minimum you should be able to give your quarterback. Now, the Raiders ran this play last week against the Seahawks, or a very similar play. This is cover 4, and Trey Tucker's just gone. He's just too fast. And if you give your quarterback the time, which he has on this one, this is what you can expect. And we had a couple of these moments early on in the game, but the pressure obviously got to the quarterback. We had some of these plays last week as well. Pressure got to the quarterback. Give our quarterback some time, and this is kind of what you could expect. But understand, a lot of these stats did come in garbage time, so I put this blame on the offense. You can make the blame that special teams lost us this game as well, but on no way I'm going to say the defense lost us this game. And I know they gave up touchdowns, but all defenses give up touchdowns. And really, it was just a couple of big plays that they gave up. Just got to clean some things up. The Raiders will bounce back, man. The Commanders were in the championship game last season for a reason. They're a good football team, and they only got better. And I saw a stat earlier today where someone said that the Commanders in Marcus Mariota's 3 games have literally put up 40 points in all 3 of those games since Jaden Daniels has been their quarterback. Right? This is the first time this year. He played 2 times last year as well. They put up 40 plus points. So the Commanders' offensive coordinator is actually a really good offense coordinator where he's able to have success not only with Daniels, but even the backup quarterback. So I'm not surprised that the Commanders ended up beating the shit out of the Raiders. But the Raiders just got to clean up the special teams, the big chunk plays on defense. And then the O-line has to keep the quarterback clean and pick up the big chunk plays on the offense. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it answered any questions you guys may have had. We're going to be doing a couple more film breakdowns this week. So let me know what you guys want to see. Thumbs up, subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time with another video.